Good evening, Colonel Nation, and welcome to this special live broadcast presented by the Eastern Kentucky University Office of Alumni Engagement and the EKU Department of Athletics, as we are going to talk about big news breaking last week from EKU, and particularly in the athletics department. President Dr. David McFadden, Vice President and Director of Athletics Matt Roan, announcing that after 70 plus years in the Ohio Valley Conference, EKU is making a move and moving to the Atlantic Sun Conference. And a lot of people out there, alums, are asking, what are the advantages to this move? Why are we doing it? We want to know more. So tonight, we are going to give you more. We're going to give you a chance to learn about why the decision was made, what are some of the great things that are ahead in the ASUN, and give you a chance also to ask some questions if you'd like. If you have questions tonight, you'll have a chance to put those in the chat and get those answered by our special guests. And we are very happy tonight to have a special guest. It is EKU's Vice President and Director of Athletics, Matt Roan. Matt, welcome to the show tonight, and thank you for being with us.
I appreciate it, Dan. Always good to be with you, and hopefully I can give some information, and you and I can have a couple good laughs tonight as well.
Well, we always find a way to have a good laugh when we're together. All right, so obviously the first question that people ask is, why the move? Why is EKU moving to the ASUN?
You know, certainly not a decision that we came to lightly. Dan, you and I have been together long enough during my first tenure here at EKU that really in 2013 through 2016, and I think that was probably really when it first started to really bubble up. But I think under the surface, there was still just more ambition, maybe a bigger vision than where we were. And so as I had the opportunity to evaluate coming back to EKU in December of 19 and ultimately made the decision in January of 20, I heard from our board chair, Louis Diaz. I certainly heard from our president, Dr. McFadden, that, challenge the status quo, try to dream big and position ourselves athletically and institutionally to be the best versions of ourselves. And at that point in time, I knew through relationships and certainly just trying to keep an eye on the landscape and how it was changing, I knew that the ASUN had really outlined this bold plan for its future. First, the introduction of football and making that the 20th conference sponsored sport. But the idea of trying to create, more access to AQs and trying to create a league full of dynamic public and private institutions in a growing, part of the country. And so, we engaged in those conversations. As the pandemic unfolded, we really started to look more internal at ourselves and who we were and who we wanted to become. And it just seemed like as we went through the fall and we were forced to forge our own path with respect to the way that the fall went, and we heard from our fans, we heard from our students, our student athletes, our coaches, that was something that they were interested in. And so ultimately, we made the decision to go down this path, and we think it's beneficial, and I've said many times, from both an institutional and athletics standpoint. We're not making this decision, I think, if it were just about athletics. But this is about the future success and I think the vitality of our institution and being able to recruit new and prospective students in a growing part of the country. Certainly, we want to make sure that we continue to be Kentucky's Commonwealth University, but getting and further entrenching ourselves in Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Florida, growing states, growing cities and metropolitan areas, diverse cities and diverse states. And I know as an institution, that's very important to us. You and I both know, and we've talked about this, that there are about 100,000 living alumni in that footprint. And certainly, we love going to throughout the Commonwealth, and we'll have the opportunity to go into its biggest city in this, Louisville, and play Bellarmine there. But again, to be able to go play in front of our alums and our fans in those states that I just mentioned was something that was very important to us. The ASUN is a competitive league. The most recent full athletic year that we've all been able to enjoy was the 18-19 athletics year, and they had 19 postseason wins in that year alone. And so we're talking, NCAA postseason success. And so we believe that it's a step up in competition. We believe that, again, they're not just dynamic institutions, but they're athletics departments who are aggressive, who are forward thinking, who want to compete at that high mid-major level. And that's something that we pride ourselves on. Divisional alignment is going to allow us to maintain, the reduced missed class time and control our expenses. And there's just so many reasons that we think, again, institutionally and athletically, that this is the right move for us as a department and as an institution.
Obviously, alums and fans remember just a few years ago that EKU showed some interest in moving to the Sun Belt and explored that option. So some would ask, now here we are a few years later, and we're, instead of looking at an FBS conference, we're looking at an FCS conference. But I think one of the keys about the Atlantic Sun is their values really line up with EKU's values as well.
It does. The ASUN will talk a lot about its beams, which are really its values, and students first and rise. And, that's the competitive piece, and impact. And, just to name a few, again, as we went through that process, and I guess it was the summer of 2015, and you and I had talked about this, that the school that ultimately ended up receiving the invitation showed what they had built, and we showed what we wanted to build. And we've made a lot of progress since that time, but certainly still have a ways to go. The landscape of college athletics, I think if there's one thing that stays the same, it's that everything is always changing. And we have had conversations with multiple leagues, I know, over the years. And certainly I had my own fair share of conversations with different leagues at different levels and various levels. And time again, it came back to when you talked about the leadership of the conference, the leadership of the institutions that made up the conference. When you talked about the vision and the direction and the value system that you and I talked about just a moment ago, it became apparent that it was a perfect match, and that's why we made the decision to move to the ASUN.
Well, and the thing that excites me, and we have a lot of alums from all across the country who are tuning in tonight, is that many of these alums are going to get to see the Colonels play now, because we're going to get into some areas where we have a lot of alumni, and I know that was a big part of the ASUN.
It was. And, again, we talk about places like Atlanta, We talk about Nashville, we talk about Alabama, and getting up and down Florida. And again, I go back to last year pre-pandemic. Right as I started this job, there were 4 alumni events that were scheduled, and that was you and Mary Beth and her role as foundation chair at the time. One was in Central Florida, one was in South Florida, one was in Atlanta, and one was in Nashville. And when you look at that map there on the screen, this map really plays into that well. And I go back to the fall when we had the opportunity to go play at places like Conway, Arkansas, to go play in Troy, Alabama, to go play at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. We heard loud and clear from not only fans and alums, but parents of student athletes that it was nice to be able to go to destination cities as well. And that even factored into our decision.
Yeah, and by the way, you didn't mention this, but we also had an alumni event scheduled in Louisville last year, and had to cancel that at Angels Envy up in Louisville, and had 100 people signed up for it. So that's another market that we're going to get into, and that's people talk about we're leaving Moorhead, we're leaving Murray, some of our rivalries, but we've got the opportunity to start some new rivalries.
And I've been pretty bullish on this statement that to me, one of the things that has been lost really in the past 10 or so years of conference realignment at all levels, Power 5, Group of 5, FCS, 1 AAA, whatever you want to say. Common sense hasn't always prevailed. To me, it's a shame that Texas and Texas A&M don't play each other every year. It's a shame that West Virginia and Pittsburgh don't play every other year or every year. And as I've had conversations with my peers, and it was very important to me that, and it still is very important that we transition out of the OVC, a league that we were a founding member of and had 73 years of great success and memories. But it was important for me that we handle our business the proper way. And so I've had those personal conversations with my counterparts at the other schools, and specifically, Murray and Moorhead. And I've said, hey, common sense should always prevail in these decisions. And there's nothing exclusive about protecting our existing rivalries and starting new ones in a new league. And I have the commitment from those 2 gentlemen to make sure that we're doing that, because it is in the best interest of our student athletes, our fan bases, our alums. And so we're looking forward to being able to do both of those things.
Well, and I know that for old school Colonel fans like myself, when Western left, when Middle Tennessee left the OVC, we were able to still form new rivalries and pick up new rivalries, and we still get a chance to play Middle Tennessee and Western, not every year, but those rivalries are still there. But the opportunity for new rivalries is something that will come naturally.
It will, and we had the opportunity to play Central Arkansas this year. We played them twice at our place and theirs, and I think when you look at that institution, when I'm on that campus in Conway, Arkansas, and I was very fortunate to be on it quite a bit when I was in the Southland Conference, it reminds me of EKU. And I think our fans will find that it reminds them of EKU. Jacksonville State, we have, I think, as much success in that 73-year period that we were in the league for its entirety up until now. But Jacksonville State, in their 18 years in the league, has had as much success as anybody during that time. And so that rivalry would continue, but there's also the opportunity to create new ones as well.
There was a piece in the local newspaper about someone saying that they were surprised that there wasn't more sadness or disappointment in leaving the OVC. But I think one of the things that has really kind of driven this is controlling your own future. And in this day and age, you've got to be proactive instead of reactive. And while we have a lot of memories and a lot of great things that have happened in the OVC, the culture is changing. It's shifting all the time. And, you don't know what's going to happen 2 years from now. You got to move when you can make the move, I guess.
No, I agree. And I don't want to pretend like there's not a certain amount of nostalgia. I occupy the same hallway as Carl Park. And Carl Park knows more about the league than anybody I know. And the fondness with which he, speaks of it, that is not lost on me. But I know in the 73 history, while there hasn't 73-year history, while there hasn't been a ton of movement, there's been critical movement. Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee State. I mean, there's been a lot of programs who have come on and gone on to what they saw as greener pastures, and they bet on themselves and they aligned themselves with, the best institutions that they could. So there's absolutely some nostalgia there, but Friday and right now, it's forward looking, it's forward thinking, and it's optimistic, and it's hopeful that the next 73 years are going to be the best in our institution's history, not just the last 73.
We've got some questions that are coming in from some of our viewers tonight, and the reason I'm going to get to them is because there's some of the things that I was going to cover as well. We talked about we're going to be getting to our alumni, where our alumni are, but Richard asked a good question. He says, will this move enhance your recruiting? And I think that's a key, not only athletic recruiting, but recruiting students to the university. We're getting in some areas that are great areas for us to be recruiting students and athletes.
No, for sure. And if I'm sitting at my computer right now, and so if I have the opportunity to kind of type in to look at our football signing class today, I just want to make sure that I don't misspeak. But our football signed a smaller class, but from Georgia, Florida, Alabama today. Again, I go back to that piece. If this was something that was taking us outside of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I don't know that it would have been as attractive as it is. But the fact that we always want to make sure both students and student athletes alike, that we were recruiting Kentucky young men and women to be a part of whatever we're doing, whether it's educating, whether it's the student experience, or whether it's intercollegiate athletics. But absolutely, Dan. I mean, the talent that exists in the southeast part of the United States is going to create a windfall, in our opinion, for several sports. Not every sport recruits domestically. Some sports recruit maybe a little bit more internationally, and so this probably doesn't have the same impact on them that it will with others. But I certainly engaged our coaches throughout this process to the extent that I could. And again, you try to be private. You try to show a certain amount of discretion that these things don't get out before anything's final. But all 10 of our head coaches have shared with me the excitement of the opportunity and what it'll do to enhance our recruiting efforts.
Lucy Riffle asked, will the travel costs be an impact on the budget? Obviously, it's a little bit more spread out than what the OVC is.
It is. So right now, there were 9 teams that stretch really from Fort Myers, Florida, again, to show that map, to Lynchburg, Virginia, as far west as Nashville. And our inclusion with Bellarmine this year brings it a little bit more north. Central Arkansas extends that western footprint a little bit. And Jacksonville State is certainly squarely in the league. And so that takes us to 12 full members. I will tell you, even at 12, with regional and divisional scheduling, that is going to minimize that travel impact. But it will, there will be a modest impact there, assuming that we stay at 12 in the short term or the long term, and I'll elaborate on that here in just a moment. But that divisional scheduling is certainly going to offset that. But I think we have a tendency to focus on the expense side a lot without considering the revenues. And the fact that we have an opportunity now with the 3 of us coming in to renegotiate our media rights agreement. The ASUN does have an agreement with ESPN Plus. And so the opportunity to bring a little bit more bargaining power to that, we think it's going to be advantageous for us because, again, of those market sizes, those demographics. And so that could create a little bit of some resources that we have not been able to account for in years past. Revenue sharing within the league. Certainly being located in Atlanta, some of the corporate sponsorships that, again, could be shared throughout the league, where we think it'll be at least a net neutral, if not a net positive for us from a financial standpoint.
Well, and I can just speak as an alum and as a fan. The thought of a basketball game in February in Fort Myers, Florida, instead of Martin, Tennessee, is very attractive to me.
I'm glad you said it, not me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a road trip that I would love to make. And nothing against Martin, Tennessee. It's a fine town, but it's not Fort Myers, Florida. I got a question from Jeff Whitson here, and I think this is something that you were going to get to. I know expansion of the ASUN is ongoing. Is there still a chance of getting at least one more school in place so that the ASUN can play football as a conference without moving around for a year with the Big South or WAC or whatever might be planned?
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to operate with a certain amount of urgency. I think that's largely why we made the announcement when we did. Even though our winter sports are ongoing, it was important for us to send a signal that, hey, we're moving forward, we're moving in this direction, and we're open for business. There's Mary Beth. I like that comment there. I wonder where you'll be staying.
Yeah.
But for us, Dan, I mean, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But we
talking about expanding for a football team.
We wanted to send it out and to show that excitement that this is happening. And there are several conversations that are ongoing. I will say that some conversations are a little bit more advanced than others. But if you've heard me speak, if you've heard Greg Seitz at Jacksonville State, Brad Teague at Central Arkansas, or even our commissioner, Ted Gumbar, you'll know that our goal is to go to 6 to 7, as many as 8. I don't think we necessarily want to go above 8, but with full FCS members. And again, that allows us to, again, divide up a little bit better north-south. The ASUN has some assets that we can leverage to even create some better access to postseason opportunities there. But we're hell-bent, for lack of a better phrase, on trying to get to that 6 or 7 mark right away. We are fortunate to be in the position that we are with the Big South and that affiliate membership, that we do have that guaranteed access of an AQ into the FCS playoffs for this upcoming year, and every other sport we have access to the playoffs. But we're working really hard and diligently every single day to make sure that we build this thing that is built to last and for success.
Yeah, that's one of the messages that I have kind of tried to relay to alums this week is let's think about what the ASUN is going to be in 3 years. Let's not just think about what it is today, but let's think about where they're going to be in 3-5 years, because I know they're continually looking to expand, add more teams. And if you get a couple of the right schools, that football conference is going to look very, very attractive. Yeah,
it could be outstanding. And again, I see one of the questions is, does this have an impact on all of our sports? Yeah, this was the right move for all 16 of our sports. This is not an affiliate membership in any one. We are making this move across the board. And so to have the opportunity to move all 16 of our teams was attractive to us there. And I appreciate you saying that, Dan. For us, the opportunity, there is some strength in numbers. There is an opportunity to build, in our opinion, the premier FCS football conference in America. There's the opportunity to be with those like-minded institutions that I think value, trying to continue to improve our standing in football, whatever that may be. But what you're seeing now is really just the start and the first step of what the ASUN is ultimately going to become.
Yeah, Oscar Harrington has a question. What happened to the Mid-American Conference? Was that considered? Were other conferences considered? Kind of your thoughts on how we ended up arriving at the ASUN.
Yeah, you go back to the summer of 21, and certainly the Sun Belt Conference was a league that was considered. We did. I will tell you that we have had communications with that league, at least even since I've been here. I can't really speak to before that. We did have some conversations with the MAC as well. But again, when you balance opportunity, when you balance, the vision and the values and things of that nature, believe it or not, the ASUN made the most sense to us, and we're excited to be a part of it.
It was mentioned a minute ago about how it would affect all sports, but I think one of the great things about the ASUN is the options it gives you, specifically with the sport of football. Because they have schools that play at all different levels of football competition.
Yeah, I think it's one of only 2. And to be honest with you, I've talked about it so much that other league is escaping me right now. But yeah, it's of the 12 member schools that we have right now, obviously 5, with us being included in that 5, play football at the FCS level, which means we have 63 scholarships. There are schools who play at the non-scholarship level, very similar to Moorhead. Stetson University plays in the Pioneer League, which is a non-scholarship. It's a league, but in some ways it's a scheduling alliance of those types of schools playing all the way to San Diego, California, into the Northeast. There are schools who a lot of people will say are 1 AAA, and they choose not to play football. And then Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, and you saw the success that they've had. The ASUN allowed them the opportunity to come into the league in all sports, with the exception of football, and they were able to really park their football team as an FBS independent, and that's been a great move for them. And so, I've gotten the question a lot about, does this mean that we're going FBS? I think what this means is that we're in a league that could aspire to get there. Certainly we're with other programs that do aspire to get there. I'll be very blunt about that. I think we've got a collection of schools that are like-minded, are aspirational, and want to get there. There's very limited ways that you can make that move. And so you want to make sure that you're positioned well with your peers. You want to make sure that you have that governance support and that leadership at the conference office. But at the end of the day, if we have success, if we grow as a department, if we grow as an institution, and we decide that that's the move that we want to make, whether individually or as a group, we have the support to do that from the conference office.
Well, one of the things we've got to get used to doing too is, I know that the preferred name is the ASUN and not so much the Atlantic Sun. I'm just curious as to what the reasoning. One of our viewers kind of wants to know the purpose in calling it the ASUN instead of the Atlantic Sun. And I guess maybe because Atlantic has a certain connotation to it.
I'll be honest with you. As I saw that question pop up, I do not have a great answer. I will tell you that the league at one point, I think it was the Trans-America Athletics Conference, that evolved into the Atlantic Sun. But its official name, its legal name now, is the ASUN. The Atlantic Sun is not part of that. My guess, perhaps, Dan, is as good as anybody else's right now, and I need a history lesson, and I'll call the commissioner tonight to find out. But I think it may be because there are both schools on the Atlantic side and the Gulf side as well. When you talk about a Florida Gulf Coast, I hope that's the right answer, but I have no way of knowing right now.
We've talked a lot about how this affects football, but I think because you have so many schools in the South, this is going to be a tough transition for some of our spring sports because they're going against schools that are able to play and practice year-round and have much better climate for that.
Oh, it is. When you look at, I think of some of the success, and again, I talk about those 19 postseason wins in 18-19. A lot of those were in, baseball and softball. I mean, everybody knows the tradition of success that some of those Florida schools have. Not only advancing to regionals, but super regionals, and really on the cusp of the College World Series, even from time to time. So for us, it'll all be about giving our programs what we need to be successful and what they need to compete. My job is not terribly complicated. I think it boils down to three things. I think you make sure that you hire and retain really good people. You give those people the tools that they need to be successful, and you make sure that you follow good processes. And we do a great job, I think, on the process standpoint. And that's really our alignment with the institution, the support that we receive from you, from Bettina, from so many people, the fact that we're integrated and a part of the institution, not separate from. I think we have outstanding head coaches, and we recruit some of the best and brightest student athletes. And so, and the people piece, I think we've got that figured out. But those tools pieces, Dan, that's us giving our programs what they need to be successful. That's making sure that our facilities, our resources, what they have to compete at that high level, championship level, we have those in place for them to be able to be successful.
Well, and that really transitions really well into what I wanted to talk about next, because one of the things, and I don't know if I should say it's a challenge, but I think it is a little bit of a challenge for us, is as we move into this conference and we look at some of the money raised by some of the schools that we're going to be competing against now. A lot of alumni are out there watching tonight, and this is a call out to them that we need their help to be competitive with some of the schools that we're going to be going up against now.
We do. Let me start by saying that everything that we've done to this point, we're appreciative of. There is not a person that gives to the Colonel Club, whether they've given many, many years ago or whether they've given this current year and years in between. You are appreciated. You are valued because of what you've done, whether it's giving to the institution or giving to the athletics department. If you give $1 or you give $1 million or more, that matters to us. There is no amount too large, too small, but it's going to require strength in numbers. Absolutely. This move with any increases in expenses, with the opportunity for us to grow and those opportunities that might be available down the line from an FBS standpoint, that comes with a cost. And as much as I would love to, I know that I can't look across campus and just have my hand out and say, hey, we want to do this. We have this opportunity. Can you help me out here? I know it requires a team effort. I'm a piece of it. You're a piece of it. The people who are on this call tonight are pieces of it. And really, when you address this group as Colonel Nation, everybody that makes that group up is a piece of what we hope is a bright, no pun intended with the ASUN, but successful future. And so we do have to grow our membership in the Colonel Club. Our numbers as compared to the 7 publics that are already part of the ASUN and that will be a part of that, we're on the bottom and we're looking up. When you talk about the ticket sales piece, we're on the bottom looking up. So whether you give or whether you come back and support us on the road if we're coming to your city, if you're a business owner, certainly making contact with Sean Hamilton to make sure that there's ways that we can create mutually beneficial scenarios to advertise and to promote your businesses at the same time that you're investing in us. It's going to be a total team effort to get where we want to go.
Well, and one of the great things about the ASUN is I think, again, and I don't mean to keep harping on this, but it puts us in the places where our alums are. And so now all of a sudden, if you're an EKU alum in Atlanta, you haven't had a chance to watch the Colonels play in your city in a long time. Now you're going to have that chance when we go to Kennesaw State. We're going to be right there in your backyard. And it's going to give us some exposure to some folks maybe who have a reason now to step up and start providing extra support.
And it's been meaningful to me and reassuring to hear from so many football alums. To be very honest with you, over the last week, as news started to trickle out, we do not in this new league, the ASUN, we do not have a football member that's competing at the FCS level there. But it's been reassuring to me to hear, hey, I can't wait when we play Florida Gulf Coast. I'm going to be there in whatever sport, any other 15 sport that we offer. Stetson, Jacksonville, North Florida, Atlanta, again, greater Atlanta. That's going to be a great thing for us. And we want people to certainly show up when we show up in their cities. But at the same time, it means a lot to us when folks from Kentucky and here are with us locally travel to Fort Myers, travel to Central Florida, travel to North Florida and Atlanta and Nashville and, you name it, Little Rock, just north of Little Rock and Conway. Virginia, my home state, to make sure that they're following the Colonels there.
It's funny because, I think about all the travel that's involved and the opportunity to go places and our fans to get a chance to see the teams in action. And I just think that makes such a big difference in building the support. But we've kept the Nashville market, which is big to me. One thing we do need to work on with the ASUN is I think they still play their basketball tournament at home sites, right? They don't have a neutral site.
And I think, that's certainly been a part of our conversation in the same way that the OVC has really kind of been hubbed around Nashville. I think with our offices located in Atlanta, in Marietta, I believe, haven't had the chance to go in person yet. But Atlanta is certainly going to be a part of our future and making sure that we're taking the show on the road there. But again, being a part of really forming something and the evolution of the ASUN and the way that it's going, who's to say that doesn't rotate from Jacksonville, which is, I believe, one of the largest cities in the state of Florida, Atlanta, Nashville, even Louisville. There's some opportunities to be a part of that narrative from the very beginning. To make sure that, again, we have competitive balance in the league and that we're making sure that we're hitting all those different people inside the league as well.
Had a couple of questions that concern facilities. Donna Reams Morris wants to know if possibly there's a facelift for the football stadium coming up, and Jeff Whitson, if there are any other facility upgrades being planned.
So we have recently completed our phase 2 of our softball project. So our softball project, we feel really great about that facility and where it is. Certainly we've gotten to enjoy the benefits of the east side of Roy Kidd Stadium, the baseball facility. We recently haven't had a ribbon cutting yet, but we're able to complete construction on our brand new beach volleyball facility. We've been able to repurpose the old rec center. If you haven't gone to the new rec center yet, a $40 million facility right to the north of Alumni Coliseum, but that allowed us to repurpose the Olympic Sports, the old rec center into the Olympic Sports Training Center, a home for our cross country and track and field, our soccer programs, and several of our women's programs have access to that facility, and we wear that as a badge of honor. We've spent, again, I talked a lot about that introspective look at ourselves to analyze the way that we operated, the resources that we were able to provide our teams, our facilities, and we have with Mark Howard's help, I feel very fortunate to have a great team surround me. and Mark has helped me really start to begin to formulate a facility master plan. And, part of that facility master plan, I think where I'm sitting today, we know that not only to preserve, but to enhance and kind of in the same way that we're moving conferences to the next generation of Alumni Coliseum, we want to do a significant renovation here. We certainly want to do a significant renovation to Roy Kidd Stadium. I take great pride in the fact that, again, when I talk about the success of all 16 teams, if we're not doing something for all 16 teams, some more significant than others, every single year, whether it's turf or lights or bleachers or anything, graphics, all of that is part of our plan. But certainly Alumni Coliseum, Roy Kidd Stadium are two things that we know require attention. And we're excited to announce some plans for that in the not too distant future.
We have another question from Weber Hamilton. Want to know, how much do we have to pay? Obviously, it's nice when a conference comes recruiting you and comes courting you, and that makes the process a little more easier to navigate, I would say.
Well, I can't see Weber's face right now, but whatever I say, he's agreed to pay. So it's a non-issue for me. I'm just kidding. For us, our entry fee into the ASUN is $5,000 to be paid over the next 4 years. So that's, you could do the math. Last night I had the math a little bit wrong. I think I said over 5 years, but over 4 years we'll pay $1,250 annually, and that is our entry fee into the league. You might say, wow, why so low? Again, I think that the ASUN, its health, its financial status right now allowed it the opportunity to offer that to us. Some of its recent additions have had $750,000 entry fees. And so you can tell we're paying a fraction of that, but that is motivated by the ASUN's desire to build that premier FCS conference. It's motivated by its desire to expand and to welcome members just like EKU. And the other thing that I'll add, not just from the entry fee standpoint, but I know it's a question that I've received kind of out in the community a little bit of, what are those annual costs above and beyond the travel? Those operating dues, those annual assessments that the league will pass to you, everything in the ASUN is on par with where we currently are as well. And so we feel really good about the financial position there as well.
Matt, we're coming to the end of things. And as you have alums tuned in tonight from all across the country, just your message and your final thoughts on what this move is doing and why it's a positive move for EKU.
I think in a non-poetic way, I think it's a shot in the arm for us. Certainly I don't believe in change for the sake of change. I subscribe, just like our president, just like our board chair, in strategic change and making sure that you're making informed decisions for the right reasons and for the right people. And again, our alumni are a big piece of that. This is about the future. Part of my attractiveness, again, coming back to take this position was hearing what the president wanted to do, and words like transformative, words like growth, words like innovation. And I think this move aligns with those concepts, those notions. This is a forward-thinking, a bold move. I think you could say it's an innovative move. Certainly will come with challenges. But I think EKU, the way that I know it and the way that I know its people, I know that we're up for that challenge.
Matt, we appreciate you being here tonight. I think I speak for all Colonel fans across the country. We are excited. It's a new era. It's a new day, and we can't wait to make the first trip to Florida.
I appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
All right, Matt Roan, our Vice President and Director of Athletics, talking tonight with us about the big move, EKU moving after 70-plus years in the Ohio Valley Conference and moving to the ASUN effective July 1st of this year. So it's happening, and it's happening fast. Get on board. And again, Colonel fans and alums all across the country, we need your help. We need your support. Now is the time to jump on the bandwagon and join your fellow alums in supporting EKU athletics as they make this move, and hopefully be coming to a town near you soon, and an opportunity for you to see the Colonels play live. I did want to give you a quick programming note. Our next live broadcast here on Facebook Live will be coming up next Tuesday, our Alumni Spotlight Series. We are very excited to have Steve Crump join us. Steve was recently inducted into the Kentucky Journalism Hall of Fame. He's had a distinguished career in broadcasting and journalism, a broadcasting degree honoree from EKU. And Steve will be with us on Tuesday, the 9th at 7 p.m. right here. And of course, for all the information on our programming, you can check alumni.eku.edu/spotlight. And you can find out about the Alumni Spotlight series. And also another Colonel's Kitchen coming up later this month, as you can find out what's cooking in the Colonel's Kitchen. But for tonight, again, our thanks to Matt Roan for being with us, and our thanks to you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you as the Colonels take the road next fall in the ASUN. I'm Dan McBride. Thanks for watching.